and indeed frustrating. How is it that we improve on that? Simply join me, Oral Mclean, the Mortgage MC, on HGG Radio, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, as I provide you with simple, professional, and unbiased advice on securing a mortgage. Let's talk about mortgages. Yes, talking mortgages. See you soon. Hi there. Can we talk? Can we talk about mortgages? Yes. Securing a mortgage should be the most fulfilling experience of your life. However, this process sometimes can be a little confusing and indeed frustrating. How is it that we improve on that? Simply join me, Oral Mclean, the Mortgage MC, on HGG Radio, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, as I provide you with simple, professional, and unbiased advice on securing a mortgage. Let's talk about mortgages. Yes, talking mortgages. See you soon.
So much bills to pay, can't see my way, living from pay to pay. Busy trying to make ends meet, no time to go down on my knees to pray, but still God gave me grace. I cannot allow this situation to get me down, no way. So I get up, shake myself and speak into my life. It's gonna be alright. I'm gonna smile. I'm gonna try. To the end I'm gonna fight. I can do all things through Christ. I'm gonna smile. I'm gonna try. To the end I'm gonna fight. I can do all things through Christ. Sun starters feeling down, cause daddy's not around. They don't know why. Feel rejected inside. Broken families, broken homes, painful memories like no hope, and you feel like letting go. I know you feel like letting go, but I say don't give up. Press until you see your way through. Your way through. But if the door closes, knock if there's no answer, it's time to move and face the truth. I'm gonna smile, I'm gonna try, to the end I'm gonna fight. I can do all things through Christ. I'm gonna smile, I'm gonna try, to the end I'm gonna fight. I can do all things through Christ. I'm gonna fight. Anywhere you are, put your hands in the air and sing this with me. I keep trying. Hey, I'm gonna make it. I can do all this to Christ. I keep fighting. Hey, I'm gonna make it. I can do all this to Christ.
Welcome to Talking Mortgages. My name is Oral Mclean, the Mortgage MC. Just want to say happy Valentine's Day, or what's left of it. This is the part of Valentine's Day where much of you are going out to dinner and dressed in red and white. Yeah. Hope you enjoy whatever it is that you're going to be doing for the rest of the Valentines. All right. So today we have a jam-packed program for you, but just to get some housekeeping stuff out the way, remember you can text or call in any questions that you might have at 825-343-4486. That's our number, 825-343-4486. And you can do that via WhatsApp. All right, great. So today we'll be discussing pre-approvals. And one person said that a pre-approval is like money in your pocket when you're going to shop for a house. And that is so true, because you'll probably hear people talk about pre-approval, pre-qualification, approval, and you're wondering, so what are all those stuff and what do they mean? A pre-approval, as it says pre in the prefix, it's something that you do before you get the real approval. And it's like almost like a dress rehearsal for doing the official thing. So a pre-approval basically is you saying to your mortgage broker, I want to know what or how much I can spend in order to buy a house. And I want you to do an examination of my situation and tell me whether or not I am ready and what is it that I can do. And what it is that your mortgage broker is gonna examine. Your mortgage broker will examine, one, your financial situation. So he'll look at your income. He'll look at and we'll look at your income by looking at a letter of employment, look at some pay slips, probably 2 or 3, just to ensure that whatever it says that you make, like annually, you are tracking in terms of, say you make 100,000 annually, and it's now the middle of June. We want to look at the pay slips to see whether or not you have made what you should have made in 6 months, in order to say that, yes, we verify that that is what you'll make in a year, right? So we look at income, look at other assets to see whether or not your net worth is positive or negative. We'll look at your debt to see what your debt burden is like. And also we look at your credit. Very, very important. We look at your credit score to see what sort of deals you can get. Because, based on last week's program when we went through credit, we mentioned that 680 is a score that you will get the better deals, as you'll get to put 5% down and things like that. All right. So in looking at a pre-approval for you, we'll take a cursory glance at the income, the amount you'll have for down payment, your credit, your debt in terms of how much is it that you're repaying each month. And based on that, we'll crunch the numbers. And what we're looking at, we want to make sure that as it relates to the expenses that will be attributed to that mortgage, you are not above the limits that we will set in terms of debt servicing. So as it relates to just the expense, which will include your mortgage repayment, which is the principal and interest, the property taxes that you'll pay, and how much it will cost to run your furnace to keep the house nice and warm, that should not go above 39% of your income. And of course, when we add the debts that you have for the month that you are repaying, it should not go over 44%. So that's what we look at in order to get you pre-approved, right? At this time, what we're doing with a pre-approval is that we are pre-approving you, right? A real approval, we do a 2-phase approval, right? Where we pre-approve not just you, but also we approve not just you, but we approve the property. But right now, because the best time to do a pre-approval is before you start looking for a property, because when you start looking for a property, you should have some information at your fingertips, like how much is it that you can spend, right? Very, very important. So if you are getting that pre-approval before you start looking, then you won't have a property in mind or a property that you can say, I am going to buy that house at 25 50th Street, right? So what we're doing in the pre-approval is pre-approving you. So we are looking at your financial situation, we are looking at your debt situation, we're looking at your credit, and if those are in line, when we do the calculations, then it will tell us as to how much is it that you can spend on a property, the maximum amount. Usually we look at the maximum amount for our pre-approval. And you're not tied to that amount. When you actually are buying, you can go lower or you can go more. But remember, if you go over that figure, what it means is that you have to increase stuff like your down payment. All right, so the pre-approval is all about you, not about the property. So the question then is, why do you need a pre-approval? Here's the most important reason for a pre-approval. And if you have noticed, since the other day, the Bank of Canada has raised the interest rates like 8 or 9 times. So interest rates will go up or they'll go down. What you want to do is to eliminate uncertainty. And a part of eliminating uncertainty is that you want to lock a rate in and be sure that that's the rate that you will get or you can use going forward. So the most important part of getting a pre-approval is locking down a rate that you can say, yes, this is my rate. It facilitates you planning carefully, right? Because you're going to say, this is my rate, and your rate is going to help to determine what your repayment amount will be. So that is one of the most important things in a pre-approval. And once you are pre-approved, that rate that you're pre-approved at, you keep it for 120 days. Very, very important. That's the maximum usually. Some lenders will give you 90 days, but most lenders will give you that rate for 120 days. So that's one, right? Locking in your rate. 2, your pre-approval will give you an idea as to what your repayment will be based on the amount that you borrow. Right? So if you are pre-approved at a particular rate, when we apply that to whatever amount you borrow, we will be able to definitively identify the amount that you will be repaying each month. And that is a big advantage because now you can go and plan and you can actually see whether or not this is affordable or if this is attainable for you. So 1 is we lock the rate in, and 2 is that we will be able to know what our repayment amount is. Third reason for getting a pre-approval is that now that you know how much you can afford to spend, then you can now go ahead and start looking for properties or houses in that price range, right? So you don't go looking above or you don't go looking way below because now you know what you can afford. And because you know what you can afford, you can narrow your search so that you use as little time as possible and be as efficient as possible in identifying that property. So that's number 3. Number 4 is that having a pre-approval gives you a certain amount of credibility when you go looking at houses and you are putting offers in on these houses. The sellers, because you're going to announce to them that, yeah, we are pre-approved and we have a pre-approval. So when you say to a seller, we are interested in and we're offering you X, whatever amount it is that we're offering for the property that you have for sale, they're going to take you seriously. Because 1, you have already done your homework. You know exactly how much you can spend, right? You know what your rate is. You know what your possible repayment is. So because of that, they're going to take you very, very seriously when you put an offer in. Plus, because you are pre-approved, if you have a savvy real estate agent or realtor that is working on your behalf, that agent or that realtor can use that in their negotiations. Because if, say, you tendered an offer and somebody else tendered an offer and their offers are pretty close, your pre-approval might be the tiebreaker. Because if that other person does not have a pre-approval and you have a pre-approval, it says to the seller that this person is already along the process of getting the funds in order to make this purchase a reality. While the other person that does not have a pre-approval is almost like it's a race and they're still in the starting blocks and you're 50 meters down the track. So it gives you that amount of leverage against other buyers, and it strengthens your argument when you're talking to the seller, because now you can even use it to negotiate, to say, listen, this is why we're offering what we're offering, because we have a pre-approval. We are almost certain to get this money, right? So you're not wasting your time. So if you take our offer, you're almost certain that your money is going to go through. And if you notice, I say almost certain, because a pre-approval does not mean that you are 100% certain to get the funds. Why is that? Mentioned it before, but I'll reiterate. It is because the pre-approval, it basically deals with you and not the property. The property now will have to be assessed, and then the property has to be approved, right? So you already passed the test. The property now has to pass the test, and when it does, then you get that final approval, right? But your pre-approval is all about you. All right, good. So we looked at 4 very, very important reasons why getting a pre-approval is important. And so now we look at what documentation you're going to need in order to get that pre-approval. And before we go to that, I just want to remind you that you're listening to HGG Radio.
HGG Radio.
And you're listening to Talking Mortgages. My name is Oral Mclean, the Mortgage MC. All right, great. And if you have any questions or comment, you can text them in or call in on WhatsApp on 825-343-4486. Again, 825-343-4486. That's the number to get in contact with us. And again, this is HGG Radio. My name is Oral Mclean, and you are indeed listening to Talking Mortgages. All right, so what documentation we are going to need in order to process our pre-approval? Very, very important. A pre-approval is no different from when you're going for an approval with a live file, because what you have to do now is that you have to provide, you still have to do a complete application where you'll provide demographic information and personal information yourself, like your SIN number, name, address, marital status, the usual, right? Then we look at your credit history. And again, based on last week when we spoke about credit, the ins and outs of that. We look at your score. We look at the public records, if there have been any late payments, if there have been any collection attempts, right? So things like that we'll look at. And we will, as mentioned before, look at like your a letter of employment a letter from your employer, pay slips. We look at your debt load. So we'll check to see what are your credit card balances, if you have those, if you have a car payment, what is the note amount for the month, things like that. And of course, we want to ensure that, if you say you are going to put 5, 10, 15, 20% down, we will do an examination of your bank statements to ensure that the funds are there. And in most cases, those funds have to be in your account for 90 days and more, right? Except in the case where you're going to be getting like a gift, and that, does not have to be in your account for 90 days, but there's documentation that you must sign in order to verify that that is a gift and is something that will not need to be repaid. All right. So the usual documentation, and of course, you have to provide 2 forms of identification, because we have to be sure that who you say you are, and we look at other assets and stuff like that. Okay, good. So now that we have done the application, we ensure that everything is nice and correct. We submit the application to the lender of our choice that will do a pre-approval. And I must state that not all lenders do pre-approval. Some lenders do pre-approval because some lenders, for whatever reason, and most common among those reasons for not doing pre-approvals, are that doing pre-approval is it adds to the workload, right? And some lenders aren't equipped in terms of human resource to manage that extra load that a pre-approval will bring. So what happens is that the lenders that do pre-approval, when you do a pre-approval with a lender, that pre-approval, you are not bound to say that you have to stick with that lender, right? You are not. You can go anywhere when you're ready to buy that property. When you find a property, you can go. You can ask your mortgage broker to submit your file to any lender of your choice, or if your mortgage broker finds a lender that gives you a greater advantage or gives you a better mortgage. However, bear in mind that when you get that pre-approval and that interest rate is locked in, if you go to another lender, you can't say, I went to XYZ lender and I got 5 or 4 point whatever percentage that I got, and I want to get this, because that lender might not have that rate. So in order to get the rate that was locked in for that 120 days, it is crucial that you go back to the lender that you had the pre-approval with. However, as I said, if you don't go back to that lender, then you are starting from scratch. Another good thing to go back to the lender that you got the pre-approval from is that they've already started an examination of your file. So it's almost like you have started developing a relationship and it's a continuation, right? So the file would not be foreign to them, right? There'll be some amount of familiarity and you can start from that point. Okay, so very, very important. But you are not bound. It's not like if you go to somebody else, there's a penalty that you have to pay, or they put you on a list that we will not do business with this guy again. No, it's not like that. You can go anywhere when you find that property to get the actual approval and the mortgage. But because you have already started the process, going back to these guys, 1 is easy. 2, you have a rate that is locked in. And while I mentioned the rate that is locked in, it must be noted that when you get that rate that is locked in, say you lock a rate in at 4.3%, and something happens and the rates go down. And now the rates that are prevailing is like 4%. The beauty of a pre-approval is that there is a clause that says when you're ready to get the approval, or as we call it, go live with the file, if the rates decrease, then we'll give you the lower rate. So if the pre-approval rate is lower than the rate that exists, we'll use the pre-approval rate. However, if the pre-approval rate now is higher because the rates went down, then we'll give you the lower rate, which is the rate that is lower than the pre-approval. And that is fantastic, right? Because that is probably one of the very few times that you can have your cake and eat it too. All right. So just reminding you that you're listening to HGG Radio, and my name is
HGG Radio.
I'm the Mortgage MC, And you can ask any questions you want or make any comments at 825-343-4486. And at this time, I have a little giveaway. You know, I always have some goodies in the bag, right? So at this time, I am inviting our listeners and those of you who are joining us on YouTube, if you text or call in and tell us what is our topic for today, which is pre-approvals. Oh, no, I gave it away, right? Got you there, right? But if you text in and tell us what's our topic for today, I have a gift card from Timmy's or Starbucks for you. A gift card of your choice, right? Either Timmy's or Starbucks. And all you have to do is just text in on WhatsApp at 825-343-4486. That's 825-343-4486. And just tell us what is our topic. Pre-approvals, right? And if you have any questions, please text your questions in. You know, I'm very, very happy to answer them. Even if it's not on pre-approval, you ask the question, I'll provide you with the answer. All right, so question, does a pre-approval expire? And I've said it earlier, but I will ensure that I state it categorically. Yes, a pre-approval expire. Only good salvation lasts forever, right? So a pre-approval does expire. And usually it's 120 days that the pre-approval is good for. What will happen, though, is that if, say, the market is difficult or you cannot find a property in that 120 days, if you have a mortgage broker that is savvy, right? So say I am your mortgage broker because I'm the most savviest of mortgage brokers that you can find, right? And that's not self-praise. That's what my clients tell me, right? So I'm just repeating what they say. So if I realize that you haven't found a property and I check in with you and you say, oh, Oral, listen, the process has been arduous. We have gone here, there, everywhere, high, low. Just like HGG Radio, we have gone to the highest heights or the lowest valley, right? And we cannot find a house that ticks all the boxes that we want, right? And I say, well, our pre-approval is running out. So here's what we'll do. If and when it expires, what we will do is to do another pre-approval, right? They're not gonna penalize us. If that is if I see where rates might go up, right? Because we constantly monitor the market and try to have an idea as to what might happen. No crystal ball, but we do our own little forecasting. We're not economists, we're mortgage brokers, but still do our analysis, and we will advise you as a client and say, listen, there's nothing that we see right now that rates might go up, or based on what we're seeing, it is highly likely that rates might go up or rates might go down. So let's take this course of action or not. The only drawback with us doing another pre-approval 120 days after or thereabouts after we have done one is that when we're doing this new pre-approval, we then have to do the process over in terms of updating the application, and we still now will have to pull your credit again to send in to the lender because the time has elapsed. There's 4 months, 120 days. Anything could have happened. You could have gone from having great credit to having terrible credit. So we would have to pull that credit again. And in pulling that credit, your score might be knocked down 10, 15, 20 points because of the inquiry that will be done, right? So we will weigh that against the advantage of you having a rate locked in and the negative impact that it will have on your score in order to ensure that you are not left at a disadvantage, right? And that is something that we'll, in my case, I'll discuss with you at length, and we look at all the pros, all the cons, and see whether or not that is the way to go. All right, so it does expire. And again, reminding you that you're listening to HGG Radio.
HGG Radio.
And you're listening to Talking Mortgages with the one and only Oral Mclean, the Mortgage MC. All right, so your pre-approval does expire. It doesn't bind you. And of course, persons have always asked, pre-approval, pre-qualification, are those terms interchangeable? And the simple answer is no. They're not the same thing. A pre-approval is us doing an application, submitting it to a lender. Lender does what they do and then give us back, based on the numbers that we send to them, give us back their opinion that, yes, this is good to go, or no, this is not good to go. This is what you'd have to do for us to give our approval on this situation. A pre-qualification is merely a quick examination of your situation to see whether or not your numbers can fly and where they can fly to in terms of an amount. And one of the best ways to do a pre-qualification is to use my mortgage toolbox, right? So if you go to, and you can download my mortgage toolbox, because what it is my mortgage app. But because it's more than an app, right? Because it has so many different functionalities, it's not an app, it's a toolbox. And you have that toolbox and you're set for life when it comes to mortgages. That you can get from my website, which is at themortgagemc.ca. You go there, you click the link, and you can download it, whether you have an Android or a Apple OS. Both of them are there. You download that, you log into it, ensure that you log in, because logging in will unlock all the potential that app has. You can do side-by-side comparisons of different scenarios. You can do pre-qualification. You can do a purchase calculator. You can look at closing costs. You can look at so many things in that toolbox. Yeah. So you go to my website, themortgagemc.ca, and you can download that. Right. So a pre-qualification, as I said, is merely just a look at whether or not you have what it takes in order to buy at a certain amount. And it tells you what amount you can buy at. All right. So, my producer, any questions? All right. We have one question. All right. We'll come back to the question right after this.
I keep trying. I'm gonna make it. I can do all this right. I keep fighting. I'm gonna make it. I can do all this right.
HGG Radio.
Got so much bills to pay, can't see my way. Living from pay to pay. Busy trying to make ends meet, no time to go down on my knees to pray. But still God gave me grace. I cannot allow this situation to get me down. No way. So I get up, shake myself and speak into my life. It's gonna be alright. I'm gonna smile.
All right, and we're back. Okay, great. And we have a very, 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 very good question from our audience. And the question is, if two persons are on an application and one is approved and the other is not, what happens? All right, so in that case, what would happen is if we have two persons on a file or on an application, and one person, if I did that application, I would know whether or not the application has a chance of surviving if both persons are on it, right? So what I would do is simply this. If the principal applicant is a stronger applicant than the co-applicant, right? If, say, the co-applicant has a part-time job but does not have a 2-year history, because if with a part-time job you need 2 years, a 2-year history in order for us to find an average of those 2 years. So say that applicant does not have that. What I would do, if the applicant credit is okay, if their debt load is okay, and the file can survive all of that, one way to do that is to just put $1 as the salary for the co-applicant. But I would examine the file to see the strength of it, and if that person is gonna drag the file down, if there's a way that we can leave them off, we leave them off. If not, we put them on, and what it means is that you might qualify for less, but at least you should be able to qualify. It might not be the amount that you want to buy the dream mansion, but you should be able to qualify. All right. Thanks so much for the question. All right. So time flies when you're having fun, right? And we are almost out of time. So what I'll do a quick recap as to what we looked at today. Pre-approvals, why are they important, and what are the key elements of a pre-approval. A pre-approval is like money in your pocket when you're shopping for a house. So why is it important? It's because 1, you get to lock a rate in. 2, you get to know what repayment amount that you'll have. 3, it gives you credibility when you go shopping for a house, because then you have some amount of negotiating power with the seller and against other buyers that might be competing with you. 4, you have a pre-approval, that rate is locked in for 120 days. And of course, 5, you're not bound to act on the pre-approval. And 6, and most importantly, is that pre-approval, when it expires, then that rate is gone. All right? So, very, very crucial. It can be very, very important in the scheme of things. So, for all those of you who are thinking about getting a house, give me a call. Let us do a pre-approval for you. Lock the rates in, because rates are going up and down as we speak, but mostly up. So give me a call, 780-200-5229, and let us get you pre-approved. All right. My name is Oral Mclean, the Mortgage Mark, and that's my 2 cents for today. See you again next week, same time, 7:30, HGG Radio, reaching you at the highest mountain and the lowest of valleys. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Wake up every day, working hard, got so much bills to pay, can't see my way, living from pay to pay.